Hello everyone, it's been a while, hasn't it? So much to the point where I got fat again. So I might as well get that out of the way. Little joke. Yeah, it's been a while. I think the last video I did was the reaction to the Peterborough game. I think off the top of my head, I could be wrong. I can't bother to look, if I'm honest. But yeah, it's been a while since I've done a video. And I just wanted to do one based on a subject that's going around quite a lot at the moment. So before I say anything else, I hope everyone is keeping safe, doing social distancing. Because a lot of people around Lincoln aren't doing that, I can tell you. And just keeping safe more than anything else. And yeah, just keep doing what we're doing. The deaths are going down, not as much as they should be, as much as we hope, but they are gradually going down, and eventually life will hopefully get back to normal for most of us. So yeah, I just wanted to talk about a subject that relates to that, and that is how to end the season. Now, I think we can all accept that the season's probably not going to actually finish normally. Like, they're not going to wait until next year till we can all go back in stadiums before they resume the season, and they pretty much seem to have decided at this point that League 1 and 2 are worth cancelling, and various other things that they're exploring to try and get things on. So I'm going to explore each of the options and explain why I think that null and voiding everything is the only fair way for everyone and for English football to maintain its integrity. Because I'm going to say something that may shock some TalkSport presenters. Football does not revolve around Liverpool, Villa and Leeds. There are more teams out there than those three. Only teams really care about Villa getting relegated are Villa and the teams immediately around them and the local rivals. That's it. No one really gives a fuck about other than fans of those teams. Leeds United, it doesn't affect most people if they get promoted or not. So please stop talking about those teams as if they're the only teams that are impacted by everything that's going on and the only teams that deserve a resolution that works in their favour, because it isn't. There are so many teams, especially in non-league, that have been affected by all this. Like the teams that they just got told one day their seasons were null and voided without even the chance to actually to submit their opinions or get a vote. It's amazing that they're constantly on about the Premier League teams and Championship teams and whatever should get a vote on what they do, but they didn't give that luxury to non-league teams. So you look at, say, Malden and Tiptree are miles clear in their division, and they all of a sudden got told that they were just suck it up, basically, your season's over. Same with South Shields, same with loads of teams in the non-league. I don't know every table off the top of my head, obviously. And it's just getting to the point where it's ridiculous. And now, obviously, the National League followed them, and tables have stopped there. A lot of people are talking about, oh, maybe the teams at the top should go up, but I'll get more into that in a minute. And now, obviously, it's happening to League 1 and 2. And the options just keep going on and on and on. They keep going about playing like Premier League games at neutral venues, deciding all the leagues that aren't yet null and void on PPG, or points per game, sorry, and a variety of other subjects like that. But they just don't work. The only thing that works is null and voiding. And I'm going to justify that by going through the options, as I say. So let's start with an option that they're talking about, is cancelling the season as it is, position stand as they are, but no relegation from the Premier League. Nonsense idea for a start, and the idea that they're just going to give the title to Liverpool if they do cancel the season is wrong, for the simple reason that they haven't mathematically won the title. No ifs, ands, buts or maybes about that. They have not mathematically won the title. It is not impossible for them to lose all remaining 9 games of the season. I appreciate it is very unlikely that would happen, but it's not beyond the realms of possibility. Until they've mathematically secured those extra points that would win it for them, you can't say that they would guaranteed to be champions. And the problem then is, if you do just give them the title, then, as I say, teams like Malden and Tiptree, who are miles clear in their division, could be like, well, hold on a minute, can we have our title then? You can't just give titles out to teams that haven't mathematically won them. And I believe there was one side in the non-league somewhere, I couldn't find the table, so I couldn't tell you which side they were. I think they were based off at the Channel Islands, where they had already won promotion. They'd won all 20 odd games this season. They'd already won promotion, null and void. They'd mathematically won something, and they were told that they wouldn't get it. Yet people are given an option of just giving Liverpool the title. They haven't mathematically won it. Simple as that. Mathematically, no. I agree. They more than likely were going to win the title. I'd be very surprised if they didn't. I'd laugh if they didn't. It'd be pretty hilarious. Yeah. But you can't just go giving out titles to teams that haven't actually won them yet. And so that's an option I think is null and void straight away, that you can't consider. And then obviously people will be like, but let's just say in every division that has a bit of plastic, by the way. In every division, just give the title to the team at the top of the league, which again, you've got so many different things that are going on in that. You've got, say, at the top of League 2, you've got Crewe are currently top, but Swindon are on the same amount of points and have a game in hand. And they could win that game in hand and go above them. But then if you just give the title to, say, Swindon, then Crewe would object, saying there's no guarantees they'll win that game in hand, which will lead me neatly onto PPG in a few minutes. In the non-league North, you've got York that are currently top, but if Kings Lynn won their games in hand, they would be top. There's so many different things that go on with that. And then you got Barrow fans wanting to get promotion because they were top of their division. I believe there was still quite a fair few number of games to go in that division, and they still had to play Harrogate, who were second, and that would have put the gap down to only a few points. So no one had won the title in all these divisions I'm mentioning. Excuse me. So you can't just go handing out titles. I'm going to go now on to, say, neutral venues. Now this is an awkward one. This doesn't really apply to anyone outside the Premier League, because this is only, they don't really seem to be talking about doing it in the Championship, strangely, or not that I've heard anyway. So if you do neutral venues, for example, you've then got the whole argument that Aston Villa are coming up with, where they think that being at Villa Park gives them an edge over their opponents, and they'd lose that edge if it was played at a neutral ground, which would be a valid argument if they hadn't lost several home games in a row before before everything got called off. And simply being at home doesn't necessarily going to win those games. Like Lincoln, for example, went years and years and years by losing more games at home than they won. There were some seasons where we even lost more games than we won more than half our home games. So don't pull that bullshit that playing at home is more of a chance of getting it if you play with neutral venue. And then you've got the situation of, like, do you get all the teams to play at one neutral venue, such as, say, St George's Park, where everyone just converges on that one location. Then you've got the logistics of, like, hotels, make sure teams don't contact each other, all that sort of thing. You've got then which venues do you actually choose, because then you're saying, like, you've got your Manchester, Liverpools, etc. And there's no real point having that many grounds up in the northwest, for the simple reason that there's not that many teams in the northwest. And are you really going to, I don't know the fixtures of the Premier League, are you really going to say you're going to get Arsenal and, let's say, Arsenal and Wolves to play up at Old Trafford, for example? It's just nonsense. If you're going to choose neutral venues, put them in various different areas of the country. So put one in the northwest, one or two in the Midlands, like one in the West Midlands, one in the East Midlands. So I'm not suggesting any grounds, but maybe Central Bank, maybe. Now, more likely be like, say, a Forest or a Notts County, something like that. And do one in each of the major regions to make it fair. Simple as that. Because you got to think, like, it's all well and good saying neutral grounds, but then you got, like, say, teams like, say, Norwich that are in the middle of nowhere. And I know on the map it doesn't look like it's in the middle of nowhere. It doesn't look like it'll take that long, but believe me, the roads around Norwich means that every journey they take is a long journey, because it takes forever. It's like when my granddad died a few years ago, we set off from Lincoln, and it's only about 70 miles, because of the types of road it took like 3 hours. And that's it, it's only 70 miles. So that seems to be a non-goer. And then you've got all the logistics of, like, all these clubs that are suddenly getting no income, having to pay for all the travel and all that sort of thing, which is another reason why they're considering doing League 2. So I don't think that's a go either, really. I mean, it makes sense. It's probably the most logical way to do it, but then that's not really thinking of logistics. I think if they'd announced a list of grounds they were going to do, then it would make more sense, but there aren't really. I mean, the only thing you can really do is, like, say, have, I don't know if they're due to play each other, but say Bournemouth versus Southampton at Portsmouth, and do, say, Arsenal Chelsea at, let's see who's in between. Arsenal Chelsea at, say, come on brain, I should know this. I don't know, but you get the idea. Just find a ground that's dead in between the two, so neither team has to do it. But again, that wouldn't work. So I think that's a non-starter. Then you get to points per game, which on paper sounds like a good idea, but then you start thinking of all the logistics behind it, because then you've got things like, say, in League 1, Wycombe have a game in hand, and if they won that game in hand, then they'd be third. So they'd be saying, well, why should we decide on points per game? Because we would actually be in a position of a good position. Like, if they decide to put the top three up from League 1, then they'd be like, well, we could be in that position, but then the other teams would argue, well, it's like you're not guaranteed to win that game. And I believe someone did a PPG analysis on what would happen if they did do it on PPG, and there was two different models. One was basically straight points per game, so you say you've got 30 points from 30 games, from your remaining 16 you would get 16 points because you average 1 point a game. And then someone else weighted it, so they tried to give an advantage to based on home form versus away form. So if you say average 2 points per home game throughout the season, so basically that's what you averaged. Then if you had 6 home games remaining, you would be given 12 points. And I believe it was that method where it actually put, I believe it was Oxford, Wickham and Peterborough on equal points and then separated by goal difference. I haven't got the table to hand. Now the problem you've got there is that, yeah, Oxford fans be happy. I think it was Oxford that were going to be third anyway, assuming they did the promotions and relegations in the first place. But then you'd have the other two arguing, well, goal difference shouldn't be a way to really decide it when there's so many games left to go, and goal difference is recoverable. Like, say for example, a good example of this is when Lincoln were in the conference and we were a few points clear of Tranmere, but our goal difference was significantly better. I think it was like 10 or 11 better, and it was basically an extra point. Then in the space of one afternoon, I think it was the weekend we won at Eastleigh 1-0, and then Tranmere closed that goal difference gap because they beat Solihull 9-0, and all of a sudden our goal difference was like 2 or 3 apart, and the extra point, it was still, 2 or 3 goals is still okay, but it's like it wasn't the same. So you can make that sort of argument, and again you've got the issue with Crewe and Swindon that I mentioned before, where if you say PPG, then Swindon go up or finish top at least, because they just have more points than Crewe. But then Crewe would argue that, well, hold on a minute, it's like just because you had the extra game doesn't mean you were going to win it. And there's all sort of arguments for that. No matter which way you spin it, there'd be at least one team that would argue about it. And even if you look at the bottom of the table, for example, when everything got called off, Tranmere won a really good run of form. I think they'd won like 5 games in a row or something like that, and we were the next team due to face them. And there was actually a good possibility they were going to catch Wimbledon based on what it was. So it's like they were in really good form when everything got called off. So yeah, it's one of the things where, like, just because they started the season badly doesn't mean they're going to end it badly. A lot of teams like start seasons really badly and then recover it as the season goes on. Like a lot of Lincoln's playoff campaigns under Keith Alexander, we started horribly and then recovered it and ended up having a really good season. So just because Tranmere started really badly doesn't mean they would finish it really badly and could have easily come out of the relegation zone. But then obviously if they did somehow finish above Wimbledon based on any system that's used, Wimbledon that could then just say, well, hold on a minute, it's like we are above them. Up until this point in the season we had them better than them. It's such a delicate situation, like that sort of thing where you're not going to please everyone. And again, going into the National League, the Kingsland and York situation, where no matter which way you spin it, both York and Kingsland would have valid arguments for to go top. Like Kingsland have the games in hand, but York would be able to say games in hand, but you haven't won them. You wouldn't win them necessarily. It's like Wrexham, for example, every year they seem to accrue 3 or 4 games in hand, and everyone would be like, oh, Wrexham in a fall position because they've got all these games in hand, but then they go lose all of them, and then it'd be like, oh yeah, they're in a true position all along. And this for me is why null and voiding is the fairest option for everyone. It's granted you still annoy people, but it'd be all the people who have something to gain by all these other teams basically being forced to do things that aren't in the best interest for the whole English game. So they keep on talking about integrity of the league and maintaining that, making sure that the Premier League season finishes, but the integrity of the English game was gone as soon as they let the non-league null and void, without giving them a chance to at least put their ideas forward. And it's just nonsense. Every single thing that people come out with, it's like the only thing that makes it all fair and doesn't have to worry about anything else other than like, oh, well, we could be above them if they win this, or PPG doesn't work for us, it's unfair, you're given this situation would do that because there's no guarantee of this. Null and void, it's the only fair way. No one in the top 6 tiers has won anything yet. No one has won a promotion. No one has been relegated. No one has won a league. No one has qualified for Europe. Actually, no, I take that back. Sorry. Like Liverpool obviously would be that guaranteed Champions League, as would Man City, I believe. But actually, no, maybe not Man City. But either okay, take that bit back. But either way, they're not guaranteed anything. They've not won a title. And it just seems that this the FA and the Premier League just seems so intent on finishing this season, and they say it's for the integrity of the league. We all know it's not for the integrity; it's for the money. But null and voiding it is the only fair way. And I say this as a neutral Lincoln fan. It doesn't really bother me either way, because no matter what system they put in place, Lincoln aren't going to go down. Had the season continued with the form we were in under Michael Upton, and I will keep saying this, we were not in good form, except for that little bit around Christmas and New Year. We were in horrible form overall. So it wasn't beyond the realms of possibility, but even no matter what system they do now, unless it's forced to play the rest of the games, it's not going to happen. And even if it did, I don't think it would never do anyway, because Tranmere's momentum's gone, I think. What would do anyway, because it's been like two months now since the last game was played. So for me, null and voiding it is the only fair way. And you could argue it'd be harsh on teams at the top of the leagues. It'd be harsh on teams that are like already guaranteed themselves something. But as in, like, say, if they guaranteed themselves, I haven't looked at the table, as I say. I don't think anyone had guaranteed themselves a playoff place. But it's the only fair way, because you can't just say, like, that your promotion challenge means more just because you are who you are. Like, say, for example, Malden and Tiptree are just as entitled to have their promotion and their title as much as, say, Leeds would, or Liverpool would, or Crewe, or Swindon, or Rotherham, or Coventry. So to say they can't have theirs automatically destroys any integrity when you try and force through that that professional teams, such as, say, your Liverpool, your Leeds, whatever, should get what they want. You've already destroyed the integrity of the English game by getting rid of non-league. The game is more important than the professional divisions. There's more to it. There's far more teams in non-league that have been affected by this than there is in the professional teams. And you look at teams who've already started to go under because of this indecision and all this nonsense that's going on. Like, say, Rill, for example, went bust. And the solution could have been thought that might have helped them survive. But no, it's we've got to make sure that the season concludes so we can keep the integrity of the game. Money. It's just nonsense. So that's why I think null and void is the only real option. It's, as I say, as a Lincoln fan, it doesn't really affect us either way, whether it's PPG, whether it's just null and voiding, whatever the situation is. Then, yeah, it doesn't affect us either way. And I say null and voiding, it saves clubs travel money. It saves clubs on everything. Another thing that's just come to my head that I've been meant to put in the video, I should have made a list really, is a lot of people are saying, well, what about contracts on June 30th that expire? And that is a really valid argument, because there's nothing legally which forces that player to stay. The contract is up on the 30th of January. And you could have a situation where all of a sudden a team that were, say, challenging for promotion, say if they tried to do behind closed doors in the Championship, and you had, say West Brom, for argument's sake, and half their first team's contracts were expiring, and those players refused to sign new contracts, even if they could be offered in the first place financially. Then all of a sudden West Brom are fielding like half a first team and half a reserve side. That's not integrity. You're not keeping the integrity of the competition up. There's nothing legal that says those players could be forced to stay just to complete the season if it goes beyond 30th of June. And okay, another argument, for example, I don't know Liverpool's contract situations, but say, for example, if they did decide to start the season again, I'd say the last week of June, and they lost that first game, then Man City win theirs, so the title race is still on. I say race. Then all of a sudden, a load of contracts at Liverpool expire, and none of them renew the contracts for whatever reason. They're still being entitled to a league title medal if they actually if they did win the league in the end, so it doesn't really affect them. But then imagine if they lost all the remaining 8 games, because all of a sudden they've got I don't even know who the backup goalkeeper at Liverpool is. I'm assuming he's okay, because obviously they're professional footballers. They wouldn't be there if they weren't good. I say that Paul Pogba's still hanging around Manchester United somehow. Ooh, shots fired. Hold that thought. And so yeah, that would compromise the integrity of the competition. The integrity is already gone. The integrity went out the window 2 months ago. Null and void the season is the only fair way. It's the only one where, at the end of the day, teams can moan that they didn't get a promotion that they should have got, or they didn't get a league title that they were in prime to win. But ultimately, teams in non-league had theirs taken off them. And a lot of things are going to go against. A lot of teams would have. How can I word this? A lot of teams would have a legal right to challenge it if certain things happened that they were denied. Again, like say Malden and Tiptree, for example, would have a perfectly legally valid challenge if Liverpool, for example, were just given the Premier League title without having mathematically won it, because they more likely going to win their division. You can't say that they. You know what I'm trying to say. I'm losing on tangent. I think I'm repeating myself numerous times in this video, but that's basically why I think null and void is the only fair option. So I'm going to leave it here. Yeah, have a good day, keep safe, so on and so forth.